Hello and thank you for joining me, Barry O'Donovan, in this fourth IXP Manager tutorial video. In the first two tutorials we looked at how we install IXP Manager using the automated and the manual installation methods, and in the third video we looked at the initial steps you need to take to make IXP Manager useful and ready for use. In this fourth video what we're going to do is look at upgrading IXP Manager. Just today we released IXP Manager version 5.6.0. So what we're going to do is look at how we upgrade the version 5.5.0 that we installed in the first two videos. What you see here on the screen is the standard GitHub release notification. So when we do a new release, we announce it to the mailing lists, and we give you a link to a page that would look like this, announcing the new release. And these are all of the release notes, and they include all of the details, the bug fixes, the new features and stuff like that. And it will always have a section called upgrade instructions, and it will always typically start with please follow the official upgrade documentation without skipping any steps. It's important you read this because sometimes we'll have additional release specific steps. Usually they'll be done afterwards, but some of them will have to be done during or between steps in the official upgrade documentation. So it's important to always have a quick look at the release notes just to make sure that there are no additional steps. We click on through to the official upgrade documentation, and what we'll find is all of the steps. It looks long, there's 12 steps, but actually when you get used to this you can get this done in 5 minutes for most releases. One question we often get asked is, can we skip releases and just upgrade from say 5.0 to 5.5? The official advice is to always step through the minor releases, so go from 5.0 to 5.1 to 5.2 and so on, and then go to the next patch release, so say 5.2.3 for example. You can skip some, but again you're going to need to go through all of the release notes and make sure you're not missing any steps. So one note of caution, of course, is before you start, consider if you need to make a backup. We would expect that most IXPs would have a nightly backup at a minimum of all of their servers. So it shouldn't be necessary to go and make a specific pre-upgrade backup. But if you don't have a backup process running, you should really get one in place, and you should definitely make a backup before you start. So the general process for IXP Manager is to set up some variables. And the reason we do this here in step one is so that we can try and make these installation instructions generic for different operating systems. So I'm going to go ahead and log in to our server as we left it in after the installation video from the automated install. I'm going to log in as root, and you'll see here that we set where the root of IXP Manager is installed. So if you use any of the official documentation, it will be in serve IXP Manager. So I can do cd IXP root now, and you can see I've got IXP Manager here. In the home directory of IXP Manager, you'll find a version.php file. So you can always just cat that to see what version you're currently running. So we're on 5.5.0 as expected. And actually, let me just show you that I have that running here as well on the website. So here is IXP Manager version 5.5.0, exactly as we left it. I can log in, and here we are. Okay, so let me go back to my instructions here. The second thing we do is we set the appropriate web user for your operating system. So if you're unsure of this, you can look at the process list and try and see your web browser, or sorry, excuse me, your web server. So in our case, we're running Apache, and we can see that Apache is running as www-data. The same for Nginx and Ubuntu and Debian. If you're running some other operating system, you just need to check this just to make sure, because they do vary from operating system to operating system. So in our case, we're happy that it's www-data. Now, we obviously advise that you don't run IXP Manager as root, and as such, if you just do the normal installation, you'll be running under the web user, www-data. So what we do here is just some belt and braces. We want to make sure that the web user can access and write to the necessary files and directories that it needs to allow IXP Manager to actually work. So just before we start, we make sure all of those permissions are normal. So again, you want to absolutely make sure that you've set your IXP Manager root, and then we just change the ownership in most cases it'll be a no op. It won't have any effect because in normal operation you won't have changed these, but from upgrade to upgrade. And then we just make sure that the web user can write to the correct files. Now, step 2 is we enable maintenance mode. So let me just run this. And what you will find is if I go back to IXP Manager and just click anywhere, you're going to see that I've got a please wait currently upgrading. And that's just the message that I had here, please wait currently upgrading. This will let your users know, obviously, that you're in the middle of an upgrade, but it will also stop cron jobs and API requests. So for example, root server upgrades from running while you are mid-upgrade. So it will prevent any accidental damage. So now we need to get the latest code. So I'm already here. That's a no op. So I want to pull the latest code. So git fetch all will fetch all of the code from GitHub. Now I've done this in a test, so you won't see any change here, but it'll fetch all the code, but doesn't apply any of the code. It just loads it into the local Git repository. In order to change the code, I need to do a git checkout. So you can see in the installation instructions, I've got git checkout v5.x.y, where I have to replace x and y with the appropriate version that I want to upgrade to. So I do just a quick git status. You can see I'm on a detached head at v5.5.0. You may also find if you run this after doing the installation, the automated or manual installation, that you might be in a v5 release branch. That's absolutely fine as well. So in this case here, I've just set this up so that it looks like a standard upgrade process for most people, and what it will look like again after you do it for the first time. So if I want to see what versions are available, I can do a git tag. You can see it lists all the versions, and you can see I'm on v5.5 and v5.6.0 is available. So I'm just going to do, as per the instructions, git checkout v5.6.0. Okay, that looks like it worked. And if I just do a git status again, you can see now I'm at detached head v5.6.0. By the way, this storage framework down, that's just a file that Laravel uses to indicate that we've actually enabled maintenance mode. That'll disappear again when we turn the application back on. So the next step is install the latest required libraries from Composer. We've written these commands so that you can run them as root, but that they'll actually execute as the web user. If you're running Ubuntu 18.04, then the chances are that your Composer, which is the PHP package management tool, will be in the IXP Manager directory itself, because that's where the 18.04 manual and automated installer placed it. In Ubuntu 20.04, Composer is now an official package in Ubuntu, so it's installed globally. So in our case, because we're running on Ubuntu 20.04, this is the version we need. So we run this, and we can see here it's upgrading various libraries. The libraries that it's upgrading comes from a composer.lock file as part of the distribution. So in any version of IXP Manager, there's a lock file that indicates the correct packages and versions of those packages to use so that that particular version of IXP Manager will work correctly. So we'll just let that finish here while it's running through. Okay, restart memcache and clear the cache. Yeah. So we let this run here for a sec. In normal operation, IXP Manager caches various pieces of information into memcache just to speed up operation. And particularly the Doctrine ORM, the database library we use, caches a huge amount of information to speed up page access. It's really important that we clear that out before we continue with the upgrade process. So that's all I'm doing here. Just copied and pasted those two commands. So now 6, we need to upgrade the database schema. And again, just a reminder, you really should take a MySQL dump of your database first. And again, I'm assuming that you have at the very least a nightly backup running so that you wouldn't need to worry about this. As long as your backups are running correctly, you'll have a nightly backup script, or at least you certainly should have. If you want to, and this is optional, if you want to see what changes will be made, you can first have a look at what changes the Doctrine ORM will make. In this case, between 5.5 and 5.6, there should be no changes, so nothing to update. We can also see, let me see if this works. Yeah, so as I mentioned in the previous tutorial video, There's two database libraries we're using. There's the old Doctrine ORM that we've been using for years with IXP Manager, and then with Laravel there's a new one called Eloquent. So some of the brand new code we make, we use Eloquent, and some of the older code we still use Doctrine. So on the Eloquent side, we can see that between 5.5 and 5.6, there's two new migrations that have to run. So I can skip this if I like, but I'm going to run it just to show you that it's absolutely fine and safe to do. This won't make any changes because we saw already that there were no changes pending. Then the second one is the Laravel Eloquent one, and yes, I want to run these migrations in production, and there we go. I've created two new database tables. And again, I want to restart memcache. It's a very important step, and it kind of highlight do not forget or skip this step. Now what you want to do is ensure there are no version specific changes required in the release notes. So again, that's what I spoke about earlier on. When you're in the release notes, we would indicate in the upgrade instructions if there were any version specific things that you had to do as part of the upgrade procedure. From 5.5 to 5.6, there's nothing that has to be done, so we're fine to skip that. Now we want to just, again, this is belt and braces, make sure that the web user can access all the necessary files, that while we were doing the upgrade, that we hadn't executed any commands as root that might have changed the ownership or the permissions. This is going to be a copy and paste. We're going to clear out all the possible caches, anything that Laravel or Doctrine caches to speed up application access. So we just want to wipe these out when we're doing an upgrade just to make sure that we're starting absolutely fresh. And then we disable maintenance mode. So we turn the application back on. I go back to my web browser. If I just go back to the main page here. Here we go. I'm back in, and you can see I'm now running version 5.6.0, exactly as expected. Excellent. There were a few more bits on the upgrade instructions. So recreate Sql views. We have some very old Perl scripts mostly that rely on a couple of view tables. I imagine that most people aren't using these at all, and even if you're not using them, it's probably best for now until we officially remove them to just keep them up to date. So we just run this command. Once you're on version 5.5 or greater, you can just run this command. Oh. So it's complaining because I don't have the correct permission. This is probably a MySQL 8 problem, which I'm not particularly familiar with right now. Let me just see if I can get in here. I don't know what my password is. Oh, I do, sorry. So yeah, because IXP Manager installed it. So cat in my home directory, IXP Manager, we put the install details here. And what did it do? Did it give us a... So during the installation, we also installed MySQL and set the root password to this thing here. Okay. So we gave a second way. If you're running IXP Manager version 5.4 or less, you can do it the old-fashioned way. So I'm going to just do this MySQL u root p. That's the password I got. I want to put it onto the IXP Manager database, and I just take it from this file here. So that worked fine. I'll have to check what permissions I'm missing MySQL 8 for the automated script to work. So we'll check that. But that's it. We're now running we're now running IXP Manager version 5.6.0. Hopefully you'll see that it really is just a matter of stepping through these, just reading them carefully, tweaking anything that might be specific for your own installation, and then just going through them step by step. And the process is actually quite easy. As I say again, when you get used to this, you can whip through this in 5 minutes. Is there anything else here that I should just mention? So no. No. So yeah. So that is updating IXP Manager. I hope that was useful. Again, if there's any questions, please contact us on the mailing list, and look forward to seeing you in our next video. Thank you.